Dahlgren Show. Get ready. We're going on athletic adventures all over the great state of Michigan. And the show begins now. Here's your host, Audrey Dahlgren.
Happy Monday, everybody. And more importantly, I hope you all had a great weekend. And as always, this is the hashtag Monday Motivation Show. And before we get into the football talk, I'll share my mantra for the day. Above all, challenge yourself. You may well surprise yourself at what your strengths are and what you can accomplish, by Cecile Springer. It is game week for Michigan and Michigan State's football teams, which we'll get into a little bit later in the show. But first, it's all about our high school squads. Week one for them is in the books. Half of our teams in Mid-Michigan open the season on Thursday night. The other half opened the season on Friday night, which is the case for Jim Baker and his Lansing Catholic Cougars, who beat Waverly 28-14. And Jim, thank you for coming into the studio, first and foremost, to recap that win and also blocking out some time for us, because I know you're probably busy doing a lot of game prep already for this week's opponent.
Yes. All weekend was watching film and things like that. And I got a real job too, so I had to work this morning, but I'm more than happy to come out and I appreciate the support.
Oh, real job. Don't they know it's football season? No. So week one is always very fascinating because you really do get that first true look at your team. And so we'll start there. What did you like from Friday night, and what were you like, okay, now I know what we need to hone in on a little bit more?
You know, to be honest with you, we did a lot of good things Friday night, and I felt really good after Friday night until I watched film on Sunday. And, you know, as we watched film on Sunday, we had our coaches meeting last night, and we kind of talked a lot as a staff. Most of us staff have been together for a long time, but we have different roles on the staff now. When Jim was coaching, I knew what my role was, come up with the adjustments and things like that, the offensive line, the plays and things like that. And as a staff, I don't know if we did a great job of that on Friday night. And we kind of talked a lot of that. So it was really weird I felt great Friday, obviously first win, excited and all that fun stuff. But then like anything else, as you dissect it, you're like, okay, but we didn't do this, and we didn't do that. So we really need to hone in on those. So I'm a big process guy, and I talk to the kids all the time. We can win, but if we don't do it the right way, it's eventually going to catch up to us. And I think that we're definitely going to have to do a better job up against Willie this Friday night. So we're going to work a lot on practice on fixing that.
When you say that there are some things, you know, I felt like from a consistency standpoint, just from, you know, obviously you broke it down a lot more as you're mentioning, but, you know, you were pretty consistent across the board offensively. You were able to score points in every single quarter. And so, too, with that, with the guys that you have coming back on that side of the ball as well, what impressed you about that first game?
You know, the senior leadership we have, our four captains, you know, I put a lot on them in the summer. We have a lot of expectations this year. And Bo Poljan and Mason Knippen and Alex Waters and Joey Baker are our four captains. And I was on them all summer about, you know, don't have senioritis. You know, you got to work hard and things like that. And I talked to them about, I need a captain that when we're in halftime and we're in a close game, someone's going to step up and kind of take to the team. The team's eventually going to get tired of listening to coaches. Yeah, coach, he always yells and he always does this, that, and the other thing. And I think I felt that right as game one, we were up 14-7 at halftime, and I actually looked at the captains walking in. I go, this is what we talked about. And they kind of took a leadership role in the locker room at halftime, and they listened, and they always play by, you know, we can always count on them. They're always hard players, right? They always lead by example. But it's getting other kids and stuff like that. So after the game, I really said as captains, I said, I really like the way you guys led today. And so that was kind of one of the things that having experience of those guys have been through it. Three of them had played since sophomore around the state championship year. Mm-hmm. And now it's their team. And it was good to see them kind of take that leadership role, which is what we've been working on.
Okay. Well, yeah, but like 336 yards, though, of offense. Is that sort of like the expectation that because you had 192, I believe it was, through the air. Yep. Yeah, and 144 on the ground. So that balanced approach attack.
Yeah, we were always going to be balanced. We did have 3 fumbles, which didn't sit well with me. But we should be, to be honest with you, we should be getting more yards than that. I look at technically every play should be a touchdown. And if it's not, why didn't it score? So, we want to put up points and we want to hold, obviously. And that's kind of our philosophy. So to be honest, I don't care as much about the yardage. I know it's great and all that stuff, but it's, to me, are we doing it the right way? And that stuff will take care of itself. So I knew somewhat of the stats, but I don't analyze stats very well. I analyze the turnovers, and I analyze their big plays a lot, and that's what we got to work on.
Okay, so then speaking of going off big plays too, then at the end of the game, Brandon Lewis's pick that he had was huge for you guys.
Huge. So Louis is such a great athlete. I mean, it was funny because I had some people call me after a scrimmage that came and walked in and says, "Who's that Lewis kid? Oh my God, he had a great year last year. Yeah. He was split time with another kid, a senior last year. So Louis is going to have a huge upside this year, and he goes both ways. And boy, he was tired, but he gave us everything he got. He came up with a big play. Even made some good plays defensively. Had good coverage. They made better plays on it, but our coverage was right there. So Louis is a really stud athlete.
And that win too, because afterwards, Ian had asked you, was this a little bit more special than all the wins as an assistant? There's so many wins there for nearly 30 years as an assistant. But I mean, did it have a little bit of you said it had maybe a little bit more of a special feel because it was when number one is head coach?
Yeah, it was, and I think I told him this too. I thought I'd be a lot more nervous at the national anthem. I thought it was going to be like kind of a wreck because I'm a pretty emotional guy, get into it and all that stuff. And I was surprised how kind of calm I was. And then also things just during the game, they just happened. And then we won, and obviously, it's pretty exciting and all that stuff. But again, I think I have my eye on such a bigger step that we need to take, and I see the bigger picture for this program, this school for this year, and that it's yep, we got it now. Let's move on. So I wasn't as crazy, as excited I thought I would be. I guess is a better way to put it. But I'm very happy we won. Believe me.
Oh yeah, get the era off to a great start.
Yes,
1-0.
Yep.
What I think is so great too is that for years you were the Junior Cougar program, and you essentially built that program.
Yep.
And so you have all those guys, really, like you've known these kids, and you have your son Joey as well, and the friendships that he has with his teammates and that stuff. But I mean, how important is that you have those relationships with these players coming over, and it doesn't seem like a big turnover, you know what I mean, or a big transition.
Well, and what's great about it is, so most of these kids, I coached the kindergarten flag football with these kids, and it went on and on and on from there. It's good and bad, and that's kind of where I go back to the seniors and what I want out of the captains, because most of these players have heard me for going on 8-9 years. And, you keep hearing the same thing, and you have to have different people approach you and motivate you different ways. And so I was really concerned with some of the players that, okay, that's Coach Baker. Yeah, we know he'll come back around. He'll come back around type thing. So they know me, and I'm proud of what they've done. I really am. I mean, I'll never forget their 8th grade year, and we were talking about beforehand when we played DeWitt. They had Tommy and Ty and all those guys as seniors. And that game in 8th grade against DeWitt was an amazing game. It was unbelievable. Unfortunately, DeWitt beat us, which I didn't like. But it was awesome to see all the seniors that we grew up with around this area really making a name for themselves. It's so fun.
In that growth, too, what makes them just good players for your team? Your guys, like your senior leader, like yours you're mentioning, that growth. How have you seen them grown, or what's the biggest areas you believe that they've grown in?
The pride in themselves to get better. I had a long talk with Izzo one time, in the summer actually, when I got the job, we talked, and I said, "What do you look for captains and things like that?" And we had a whole lot of conversations about it. And what Izzo said, he goes, "You're going to have players that like to play football, and you're going to have players that love to play football. But how do you get them to live playing football?" And it was awesome to hear that, because that's what actually we talked in the summer we talked about. And when we're going through camp and they're doing their 20/20s with 10 push-ups in between each one of them, and I'm just like, are you going to live in it or are you loving it? And if you're only loving it, you're not living it yet, and you got to do the process. And so I'm trying to take them to another level of the commitment to themselves. And if I can get them to commit to themselves and what they really need to do, then we'll be fine.
Have you noticed that you yourself have had to make that transition in terms of not just liking it, not just loving it, but living it?
100%. Ahern was I mean, he would stay all weekend and just study film, all weekend, all week long. But that's all he ever did. And I've got another job and all that, and I'm more of a social person. I mean, I went to a wedding this weekend. And I had to take myself, hey, I got to stay on the focus on this too. I'm so afraid that I'm missing something. And so I kind of I got to really can't just live it, can't just like it and love it. I really got to live what I'm doing right now. And so that I made sure I did that this weekend.
What's the biggest adjustment too, from your standpoint as well, with the responsibility aspect, or what else has maybe you thought, okay, there's a lot more that goes into this maybe than you didn't see Coach Ahern doing or, taking on, or what has maybe surprised you a little bit about being head coach so far?
It was the X's and O's of the game didn't bother me at all. Although I did screw up on a timeout, probably when I shouldn't have took in on a punt scenario, but that was just stuff
Yeah.
And so that, but part of the hey, do you have the roster turned in? The admin stuff is kind of like getting, okay, do I really have to worry about that? I had to go to the high school association for a 8-hour meeting one day. I'm like, really, this is crazy. And so something like that. But I think when it comes to the X's and O's, and Jim and I were really, really on the same page. I was more the O-line, figured out how we're going to run the ball and all that stuff. And that was my kind of game responsibility, was how we're adjusting and things like that. So that part of it doesn't bother me at all. And I don't think that was, but as the admin stuff that led up to the game. And finally I went to our AD on Friday. I said, as of noon, I don't want to hear anything else about what I'm supposed to turn in or not turn in. And then of course I got the stats after the game. I called our stat guy and said, hey, you turned these into the radio station, TV stations and all that, right? Do I have to do that type thing? So yeah. I'm afraid I'm missing something, but so far it's been okay.
Well, if I ever need anything from you, I will definitely text you and call you. So don't worry about that. Who else then? I love that story about reaching out to Izzo when it came to who you should pick for captains, or what, you should look for in a captain. Who else have you reached out to that has given you some really good advice from, a coaching standpoint as you are now taking on this role? Yeah,
I've always tried to learn from other coaches. It's funny, when I'll go to a Michigan State game, I'll sit and watch the coaching staff on the sidelines probably more than the game, because I really, really like, Coach Staten, who was here, now he's with Toledo. Him and I talk a lot. Coach Tucker and I talked a few times. Christian's on our team. And he, quarterback coach Johnson, had me in at Michigan State, and we've talked about that for a while. And so I've really always have talked. I've been fairly tight over the years with Butch Jones and some of the and Bonamago up at Central. And so I've always tried to learn something from everybody. But Izzo is just the guy that's the ultimate, in my opinion. I mean, he gets it. Whatever it is, Izzo's got it. And, he understands that, where kids are coming from, and, some might have bad day and some might have good day, even though my probably style is a little bit like Izzo. I mean, I get pretty excited. I'm probably a lot more like Izzo than D'Antonio type, where I'm more reserved. So I really like watching coaches on sidelines and things like that to see, you got to take some of their styles and things like that. But I try to learn from all of them. And Ahern has been unbelievable through the whole thing. He was actually in the box for us Friday night.
Yeah, I was going to ask you more about, what he's been doing, because he's been at your practices. Yep. He was there Friday. So what all is he like? Does he have a specific title, or is he just kind of there helping out? Or?
So it was funny because the first practice he came to, he just kind of stood back. And so was our defense coordinator, who was Coach Carrier, who was our D coordinator last year. And he didn't come back either because of time commitment, things like that. And so I got these two coaches to go, we want to help you. So the first practice, they kind of came around, and Jim kind of stood in the back, right? And I looked at him and go, you're not here because you're good looks. I said, you need to start talking. And he goes, well, I don't want to step on your toes. I go, you're not stepping on my toes. I go, you have a lot to bring to the table. And if you don't bring it to the table, I don't need you here.
Right.
And I said, but I need you here, so start talking. So it's been a good thing. And like Zach, his grandson, actually played Thursday night, so that's why he was able to come to it. He probably won't be able to make any other games. But he was walking up to the box and he gave me a big hug and said, good luck, let's get it. And I said, have you ever been in a box before? And he goes, never. So he was kind of like, and he was on the headset and stuff. And I laughed. And because my son Nick actually calls the plays for us on offense coordinator, and he called the play, and in the headset, Jim goes, "Yeah, I don't like that play."
I know. All right. Yeah. What do you suggest, Jim? Did he say something else?
Oh yeah. He was great because he's like, okay, the coverage is this is that. And he goes, this play's gonna work. So we're all like, we're all together on this. Like, and I told all the coaches, I said, if you got an ego, go somewhere else. Because we're all doing it for the right reason, the kids and all that stuff. And our program's established. We didn't need to come in and reinvent the wheel. We didn't need to come in and change the culture. What we have works. We just need to do better at it.
Right. Yeah. Makes a lot. No, yeah. You have the foundation. 100% it is there. And it's like, if it's not broke, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of thing.
Exactly.
With Alex too, with Alex Waters, what are your goals and expectations for him this year? Just because, we all know how good of an athlete he is. He is a phenomenal athlete, whether he's playing basketball or, playing football for you guys. So just don't get hurt.
Don't get hurt. And watch him golf. Then he'll be humbled. Okay. He's not a very good golfer. When we play all the time, and I just laugh at him because he gets so frustrated. Because he's that athlete that typically those athletes just pick up anything. Badminton, he's just that kid that just give him the ball and you want the ball in his hands and he's going to make a play. I'm really close with Alex. Him and Joey have been best friends for years, and I'm close with their family and things like that. And Alex especially. Alex was this is what a kid Alex is. Alex was our quarterback all through junior Cougars and freshman year quarterback. And then they decided to move him up. We were anticipating him being the quarterback actually for the whole his whole high school career. And then after his sophomore year, I think he made all state. If I didn't, made all regional as running back / wide receiver for us. And him and his dad and I sat down and I said, what do you guys think? Do you want to go back to quarterback? And they kind of we like this role for him. We think this is probably, if he's going to play in college, this is more of a role for him. So what I wanted to make sure was that I gave the respect to Alex because he deserves to be quarterback. And when he said, you know what, I think Joey'd be the team will be better as Joey a quarterback and as Alex as, the special athlete he is. And it's kind of worked out great. And, but that is Alex Waters right there. He's a humbled kid. He's a hard worker. The workouts that him and Louie did, with their trainers in the off season was unbelievable. And so they push each other. It's really, really a good combination.
What were they doing? What?
It was they work out at M43 with Aaron, and this guy just puts them through between the speed training and their thing. They were going there 3 or 4 times a week, just getting after it. And as you see, both of them have really, really improved their speed and things like that. So it's just going to be a fun year if we all stay healthy.
Okay. Looking forward to that too. And as you were mentioning, you do have Williamston on the clock for this week. I'm really looking forward to seeing your guys' offense versus Steve Kirsten and the defense. What have you noticed about them on film and this film that you've been watching, or just what have you noticed about them right away that you think it jumps out?
Steve's a great coach, and we haven't played each other. I think it's been 4 years. I didn't realize it, 3 or 4 years, because we always played them every year, and that was our biggest rivalry. Mm-hmm. Them in Portland and us, and we had a great thing going. And then when the CAC misaligned or realigned, it kind of messed up our rivalry with them. So I'm glad to get it back. They're good. They're fundamentally always going to be good, and they got some big linemen. They got a couple linebackers. They got Painter, who's really, really a good player. We're going to have to play a lot better this week than we did last week to be able to do what we want to do. They don't mess up. Fundamentally, they're strong. What's nice about that is we at least may be able to see their tendencies and know why they're there and things like that. So hopefully we can expose some things. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, we better be on top of our game because it's always a fun match when we play Willie.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's a rival. It's one of the rivalries. And as you mentioned, it's like almost it was sad when the CAAC did the, switch up all the divisions because, the Lansing schools used to have those big rivalries with each other. As You're mentioning that as well.
We actually, it's funny because in the summer we hosted a 7-on-7 tournament. And it was also Willie going for the championship. And a little controversial, went overtime and things like that. So it was... Steve and I laughed afterwards because it was kind of like the kids were really getting into it. And it was like, okay, this is a 7-on-7, guys. Let's not try to take it to another level. Yeah. We can do that week 2.
Yeah, so, hold it for week 2.
So,
Steve, well, when we went out to practice for 2-a-days, one of the players, they were mentioning how, if we just stick to coach's game plan, we'll be fine. And that just speaks to the fundamentals as you're speaking to about Williamston.
Yep.
So.
And they always been very, very fundamentally tough.
Yeah. Well, I actually gave you a little prep time for this. So as I was mentioning, this is the hashtag Monday Motivation Show. What motivation do you have, or do you look to maybe when you're trying to get the guys going, or yourself personally? Do you have a favorite quote or a mantra or anything, or maybe something that somebody said to you over your lifetime that has always just resonated and stuck with you?
So it's funny. I've always been in the business world, and I decided to start my business in 2000, and I had 4 kids. Wife wasn't working. She's a stay-home mom with the kids. And I just said, I came home, I'm going to start my own business. And, you have 4 kids at home and you're the only source of income, it gets you pretty motivated. So when I started my business and all that, I've kind of kept remembering that, how to stay motivated and things along that lines. When it comes to coaching, I kind of already talked about it a little bit. It's when you want to do it and you do it right, you'll be fine. There's been many a times that I've won games, either as JV coach or, during a varsity game or whatever, when Jim was head coach, and we didn't do it the right way. And you don't feel as good about it. But I've also lost some games that you're like, but we did what we wanted to do and we did it the right way. We just happened to lose. You feel better for that. Mm-hmm. So what I kind of tell the kids, and actually I talk a lot. I'm very close with a lot of our former players. 3 of them work for me right now. And, some of them, maybe don't want to go to college or don't know what they want to do yet. So we always sit back and we talk, and I talk to them about, what are you going to do though? What is your process to do this? You can't just have a dream in the sky if you're not going to have a process. I talked to one who wants to start his own business. I said, that's great, but what is your process? How are you going to, what's your first step? And it's the same thing with coaching football. I talked to the kids about it. I said, if you do the process, if you block this guy that you're good, if you take your first step, if you do all that, then we're fine. If we got a big touchdown because the guy just ran out of the way and you didn't do anything, that's going to cost us eventually. Mm-hmm. So if you're not going to do it the right way, we're going to fix it. And that's kind of where I'm going from a coaches meeting last night. Sometimes we weren't doing the things the right way. We just happened to be lucky that maybe they blitzed the wrong hole or something like that, and we were able to get a big play out of it. So if we're doing it the right way, like, to be honest with you, Waverly had a couple of big plays against us, mm-hmm. but we had good coverage. Mm-hmm. So we did it the right way. Their athletic receiver just out-jumped our guy. Well, that can happen sometimes.
Right.
But we did it the right way. So that's what I try to tell kids, whether they're in school, whether they're doing what, if you're doing it the right way, eventually it's going to win. If you're not doing it the right way, we need to fix it so you are doing it the right way. So that's kind of what I look at as the process of it.
I like that. It makes a lot of sense, because if you don't do it the right way, you're going to get burned later.
Eventually
it'll catch up.
Comes out.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Jim, so much for coming on today. We're really looking forward to, like I said, the week 2 matchup with you guys in Williamston. And we're going to take one quick break. But when we come back, Rob Zimmerman is going to join us, because as we kind of, we've talked about DeWitt a little bit in this first half of the show, but they had a really big win at the Big House on opening night as well. And we're going to hash all that out with Rob. Stay with us.
Apple making a big switch and will start to allow app developers to email their users about non-Apple purchase options. App makers want to contact their customers directly to encourage them to pay directly and avoid Apple's App Store fees, which range from 15 to 30% of gross sales. Apple obviously wants to take their cut, but is making a policy change after settling a class action lawsuit with developers who allege that Apple monopolizes distribution of their apps, leading to commission overcharges. Microsoft changing courses, says it will not block people from installing Windows 11 on most older PCs. Harry Potter is changing his U.S. streaming address again. All 8 original Harry Potter films from Warner Brothers are returning to HBO Max next month after spending a little less than a year on NBC Universal's Peacock. Starting September 1st, the 8 wizarding films based on J.K. Rowling's best-selling novels will all be available on HBO Max. Tech Report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
NBC News Radio, I'm Michael Kastner. The Cajun Navy has begun rescue operations in parts of Louisiana hit hard by Hurricane Ida. Tiffany Miller was awaiting rescue from her attic in Laplace.
We've been up here maybe for an hour or 2. Conditions hopefully are getting a little bit better. Water came in, I'm thinking from Highway 51, and it came in kind of quick. So the only thing that we could do was climb in the attic.
The organization has sent out a contact message to those stranded by floodwaters in the town of Laplace, west of New Orleans. Flooding has also trapped residents in the town of Jean Lafitte, south of New Orleans. Mayor Kim Kerner Jr. says they have a bunch of people trapped that they can't get to because of the wind and that the water's too rough and life-threatening. Kerner told CNN they've had flooding before, but he's never seen water like this in his life, and that the town is totally devastated. All of New Orleans was left in the dark. The entire city lost power after transmission lines were knocked out. Ida is now a tropical storm. It's now whipping up Mississippi with heavy rain and damaging wind gusts. The National Weather Service says the storm could trigger flooding and tornadoes. The storm is moving north through southern and southwestern Mississippi with fierce wind gusts and up to 10 inches of rain. It is moving into the Jackson area this morning with winds that could gust to 60 miles an hour and very heavy rain. Tropical storm warning remains in effect. The defense system designed to protect Kabul airport took down as many as 5 rockets today. Tracy Potts with more.
This morning, reports of a rocket strike and gunfire near Kabul's international airport after an explosion Sunday. Signs of danger as the U.S. continues evacuations ahead of tomorrow's deadline.
A U.S. official said the automated system detects incoming rockets and uses a machine gun to destroy them before they can hit their targets. Said it's too early to tell if ISIS-K is responsible. Michael Kastner, NBC News Radio.
The New Orleans Saints are being forced to practice in Texas this week because of Hurricane Ida. New Orleans will practice Monday through Wednesday at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Ida made landfall on Sunday and forced the Saints to cancel their preseason finale against the Arizona Cardinals this weekend. Elsewhere in the NFL, Minnesota Vikings safety Harrison Smith agreed to a 4-year contract extension worth $64 million, making him the second highest paid safety in the NFL behind Jamal Adams of the Seattle Seahawks. Baseball, Mets infielder Javi Baez letting the New York crowd what he thinks of them after hitting a 2-run home run against the Nationals on Sunday. Baez gave 2 thumbs down to the fans in attendance at Citi Field. Baez told reporters after the game the new celebration that he and others on the team are taking part in is a result of the fans booing the Mets when they struggle. Mets President Sandy Alderson said in a statement they will not allow players to make negative gestures towards the crowd. That's sports. I'm Seth Everett.
Welcome back to the Audrey Dahlgren Show.
It's my team. It's my quarterback.
The Spotlight Radio Network.
On opening night of the high school football season, DeWitt's coach Rob Zimmerman took his Panthers down to the Big House to kick off the brand new season against Traverse City Central, and by no means were they overwhelmed by the environment or the atmosphere, beating TCC 47-27. It's why Rob is on with us now. And Rob, what's one of the best messages you received following the win? Because I'm sure your phone was blowing up.
Well, we heard from a lot of the former players, guys who graduated last year especially, just congratulations, and then certainly some of our parents and supporters of the program. But, we had a great crowd down there. Our community supported us extremely well, and it was just a great atmosphere.
Well, good. How are you doing today, by the way?
Very good, thank you. First day of school.
I know. Crazy. Yeah, wild to think that. Well, for those two who follow your team on a regular basis, the outcome isn't, too surprising, I would say. From my opinion, I'll say that. Your players, closed the season on one of the biggest stages at Ford Field and were able to open at another incredible venue for a high school player. A venue so many kids dream of playing in, but, they weren't overwhelmed. How did you notice that walking in, or did any of them did they have a moment where they kind of were a little bit in awe?
I don't think they really did. The way the schedule went, they didn't have an opportunity before warm-ups to go out in the stadium or anything. We got there, and we had to wait a little bit, and then we got to go and use Michigan's locker room, which was great for our kids to be in their home facility there. But then we went right out to warm up, and they were just, it was such a big game that they were very focused. We're lucky we have a lot of seniors that have big game experience. So, playing in the state finals last year, I think certainly helped them to not be taken in by the facility, and they were just extremely focused to start the game.
Yeah, you could tell. And the offensive stats are what you could call gaudy. I mean, they are nearly 900 yards of offense, 200 return yards, and 47 first downs. You've known that you have an offense that is, going to perform very well with all the returners that you have. But were you surprised by any of that? Of how well
No,
they
not-
actually played?
Not really, because, with the 7-on-7s in the summer, and, we get a real good look at the guys from a skill standpoint. And, everybody talked about Bryce Kearns and what he did in that game, but we saw it all summer, so it wasn't much of a surprise to us. He's a heck of an athlete, and, Ty was as good as it gets at quarterback, and Tommy made some big plays. Bryce Debry, all of our core guys, skill guys, and our line did a really good job protecting Ty too. I mean, that was a really very, very good football team that we beat, and I had a couple of people reach out on the last day, say it was one of the most physical high school games they've ever seen. I don't know that I disagree with them. Our guys were absolutely exhausted and took several days to get over that physically.
Oh, wow. So what have you guys been doing to kind of help them from that standpoint now? Because you're going to have another tough opponent, come this week.
Yeah. So, I think the biggest thing is we played on Thursday night, so that helps. So they had a little bit extra time than last night. We went a little bit easier with practice and didn't take the same approach that we normally would maybe on Monday just to get them through that. So I think we're good to go today and have a good solid practice the next 3 days and get ready for Portland.
Yeah, with Tommy, too, he's going to be playing in a Big Ten atmosphere after this year. And so was there anything about that game or being at the Big House that he mentioned to you or pointed out about, because he's going to go play at Wisconsin, so...
No, he didn't say anything about that, but I'll tell you this. He was as fired up as I've ever seen him and maybe as fired up as any kid we've ever had. It's a big statement, but he was he was so excited to play. The emotional level, we had to settle him down a little bit because his emotion level was so high. And there's no question he was ready to play. And I think for him, the bigger the atmosphere, the bigger the game, the more fired up he is. So that type of setting is only going to be in his favor.
Yeah, and the offensive line, your guys' line too, as you mentioned, great protection for Ty. And that was something that, we pointed out before the year and you had talked about at the two-a-day practices or at the practices before. What are you seeing from these guys now after that first game that you really liked? I mean, obviously the protection standpoint is huge, and obviously Ty has to be ecstatic about that as well.
Yeah, no question. That we still have plenty of work, as every team does after 1 week. There's a lot of things to correct, but I like the direction we're heading up front. We are big, and that helps with the run game as well. But I thought they moved their feet pretty well for being the first game, as tired as they were, and they're only going to get better. Trevor Dennis has done a great job with leadership, and actually Jaden Hall, too. Both those guys have been great leaders up front for us, and they're bringing the other guys along. So I think it's a very promising unit for us. We knew our skill guys, were going to be good, but I think the line is much further along right now than what we thought it would be.
All right. And I know, too, you were mentioning trying to get your guys on defense a little bit more up to speed. And so how do you think that they're doing at this point after this first game? What did you like from them?
Well, first half we played great on defense. I mean, they really didn't do much at all. I mean, they got the one kickoff return for a touchdown, and in the second half I think we got tired a little bit, and so we got to continue working on getting in better shape. But, overall, again, I think we did a real nice job. Still week one and still lots to work on, but I would say we played better on defense than what we maybe anticipated just because of how many guys we had to replace.
Yeah, and as you look ahead now to visit with Portland, you're going to play your game there at Portland. Rob, how much film do you watch a week? Like, how many hours would you guess if you had to describe it?
I couldn't even tell you. I mean, I think every coach that is really involved with their season spends a lot of time on film. But let's say this: as much as I possibly can. Until I can't watch anymore, and every I guess half hour that I have of extra time, we try to do that, at least especially early in the season. We try to watch on down the road a little bit too, just to get an idea of what other teams are going to be like. So, that's a big part of any coach's day is watching film in any of their spare time that they have.
What do you like or not like? But I mean, what jumps out about Portland initially?
Well, I think just John and his staff, first and foremost, they do just a great job with those kids. I mean, year in and year out, they're extremely well coached, and they always play very, very hard. I mean, he has tough kids, and they just do a tremendous job at Portland with the kids that they have. So just the coaching staff alone, every time you play them, you're going to get their best effort, and they're not going to make many mistakes. And, so you have to be very, very disciplined when you play Portland. And I think, this year's group is not any different. They're going to execute, and they're going to do what they do extremely well.
You guys didn't get to play them last year. That was one of the games that ended up being canceled. And so, but do you like playing them because of the physicality standpoint, as you mentioned, the toughness of the teams that he always traditionally has?
We actually did get to play them last year. It got canceled. It was our second game originally, but we picked them up in week 4, so we played them week 1 of last year's season.
Oh, yeah, you did, didn't you? Yeah. Sorry, Rob. That was
okay.
A little mental lapse there.
It did get canceled.
Yeah.
There's no question. I mean, week 2 got canceled, but we picked them up for week 4, and so that was our week 1 game.
Yeah. Well,
so Portland is a really, really difficult place to play. We don't ever seem to play very well over there. So that's the challenge to our kids this week, is to make sure that we're locked in on Portland and we go over there and play better than we have the last, I don't know how many times we've gone there where we haven't played very well. Part of that is them. Part of that is us not being as ready to go.
Yeah. And one more thing, too, with Ty. He obviously has committed to Brown and made that pledge. But as the year goes on, I mean, I know that you've been not adamant, but I mean, he is one of the best players in the class for sure in Michigan. And so do you think as if he puts on these more performances like this, there will be any Division I schools who would change their mind?
I don't know. I don't have much faith in many of them in doing that with how things have gone with recruiting. But I know this. Ty's a loyal kid, and Brown had recruited him from the start, and I don't think it would matter if somebody else offered. I think he's very excited to go to Brown. He's always wanted to go to an Ivy League school, and he's having that opportunity to go there and play. So I would be shocked if he did have other opportunities and he changed his mind. I think he's super excited to go play at Brown.
All right. Well, great. Good stuff, Rob. Well, thank you so much for taking a little bit of the time to hop on and not only relive the exciting week 1 win, but as you also to look ahead to Portland this week. So I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Have a great day, Audrey.
You too, Rob. See you soon. All right. We had a lot of good performances, Alex. I will say that. It was a very fun night of opening night on Thursday and Friday. Just seeing how everybody looked for the first time. And yes, DeWitt definitely very impressive. 47-27, the final over Traverse City Central on opening night at the Big House. Were there any? Do you pay attention to high school football that much?
Nah, not as much as I should. Once I left the high school ranks, I haven't tuned back in as much as I probably should have. It's not something I'm proud of.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, that's okay. No worries about it at all. It is, like I said, I was impressed with that win that DeWitt had. But then again, too, as we've been mentioning about all the different weapons that they have from a skilled standpoint and on offense, we actually had Allison Holtz, Tyler's mom, on with us for our big game coverage that we did. We are going live every day from our big game every night on Fridays. Well, there's the games Thursdays and Friday last week, and then Thursday and Friday this week, but as well. But anytime we have a big game going forward on the 5th quarter on a Friday, we are doing our Sportscast live on location from where that big game is. And so Thursday, we went to Ann Arbor to the Big House for DeWitt's game with TCC. And then on Friday, we went to Carson City Crystal because they had the battle for Weber's Eagle, which if you have never seen this trophy, it is one of the coolest trophies I think that I have seen in any level of sport. It is this eagle head, and it sits in this beer stein. And so they play for it because they're both the Eagles. Fowler's the Eagles, Carson City Crystal are the Eagles. And actually, the backstory behind it as well is, so they used to have somebody at the school who went to Fowler, but then his grandson went to Carson City Crystal, and he's the one who devoted the beer stein to and thought this should be a good rivalry. This should be a good rivalry matchup. And so they instituted this rivalry game. They traditionally like to play it on opening night. Opening week, I should say. Yeah, opening night. That's the same thing. They like to do that, and that's what they did. And so now they play every year, Fowler and Carson City Crystal for the Weber's Eagle. And now Carson City Crystal has had it. They won on Friday night. They beat Fowler. So now they've had it for 2 years straight.
Didn't somebody else around the area resurrect like a rivalry trophy just recently?
Yeah, so we had, that would be, because they were on the show.
Yeah, that's why. But was it Grand Ledge Holt?
So it's Grand Ledge and
Yes,
Holt.
okay.
Yes,
That's why it stuck
they're
in my
bringing
mind.
back the Cedar Street rivalry.
Very nice.
They found the trophy, and Gary Houghton and Chad Falk are so excited about this game. It's the first time they're going to play against each other since 1988.
Yeah, and it just adds a cool element to the rivalry. I mean, it's an established rivalry anyway, so might as well add that little bragging feature. I mean, it's something that you'll be able to use for social media purposes and bragging rights going forward. It's just I always wish that we had something like that when I was there, but that's cool that they resurrected that. I mean, as good of a rivalry in the area as there is, so I mean, you might as well add a little something to it.
Yeah, you could have been playing for that trophy.
Yeah, I
the
wish.
Cedar Street
came
rivalry
in
trophy.
a little too early.
The other cool thing that when Chad was on back then too is that they have the Jack Rarick trophy with Holt and Grand Ledge. So Mason and Grand Ledge is the Cedar Street rivalry, and then Holt and Grand Ledge is the Jack Rarick trophy.
Gotcha.
It's in memoriam. Memorial. Oh my God.
In memory?
But they're in.
I don't know what you're looking for.
Sorry, it's Monday. I feel
Monday.
like, what? That is terrible. Wow, yes, but it's essentially in memory of the late Jack Rarick. And speaking of, some highlights from Friday and opening week, I should say, Thursday and Friday, during Holt's game against Caledonia, they officially unveiled they put the lettering up on the stadium entrance for Mike Smith and the memorial that they have built, the stadium to the entrance for him, which is beautiful. And his family was there for the opener to see it. And they were recognized as well on the field. And so that was another highlight from opening night. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, too, it is finally game week for Michigan and Michigan State's football teams. Today in Ann Arbor, Jim Harbaugh and Cade McNamara, who was officially named the starter of the Wolverines, which everybody knew that was going to be the case. Jim Harbaugh said during a Big Ten football media days that it's his job to lose. So J.J. McCarthy. So, but they officially, I guess, said today Nick is down in Ann Arbor for the press conference before opening up against Western Michigan on Saturday at home. And so, so opening week for Michigan and also for Michigan State, which Tucker doesn't talk until tomorrow at 12 noon. That's his first official game week press conference to get ready for the season. And I just don't know. I have a feeling that they're not going to. I don't know if they'll announce a starter.
I don't think so either. I mean,
think they're gonna.
It has been confirmed they know the starter.
Well,
correct?
right. I know that. Yes.
The quarterback that's
Yes.
starting the game knows that they are. The
Right.
team knows. I'm sure there's some people close to the program that knows, but I don't. Yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't show my cards. Why wouldn't you? That's one advantage that you have right now going in. You feel like you have two good quarterbacks, two guys that are a little bit different, and keep those cards close to the chest as long as you can. Why give Northwestern any type of advantage of knowing who the guy's going to be? Because they may not totally different quarterbacks, but they're significantly different. I mean, Peyton Thorne a little bit more with the running with the legs and stuff like that. So. No, I wouldn't tell anyone. I wouldn't let Northwestern know until the noon kick. When the offense takes the field for the first time, that's when a Northwestern should find out. If I'm Tucker.
Well, they don't kick off until 9 at night.
9 at night. That's right. It's a
But
Friday
still.
night game, correct? Yeah,
Yes.
not a noon on Saturday. Friday night.
No.
That's right.
Friday
But
night
either way, 9:00 at night. That's when Northwestern, I think, will find out when Michigan State's offense is rolling on the field.
It's good that they have. Apparently, the starter has been. They know who the starter is, but they have not publicly announced it.
I don't see any reason to do that.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah. You might as well hold on to it for 1 week. Maybe you think you have a little bit of edge there. But I will say this too, watching Russo in the Meet the Spartans open practice, he can definitely throw it deep. Like he has a very good, in his accuracy when he hit Naylor for that touchdown, or that deep pass, it looked very.
Yeah, he's a gunslinger. He's a guy. He throws it a ton of times in the game. He's comfortable doing that. Comfortable pushing the ball downfield. He's not going to be a dink and dunk type quarterback. He's going to look towards his outside receivers, in his first progressions and stuff like that. Where I think Peyton Thorne, even though he can do that as well, I think he's going to be a little bit more of a threat with his legs. I think they do a little bit more things designed with the read option type of stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, they're not totally different, but I mean, different enough to where I don't think there's any reason to show those cards. Because, I mean, if you're Northwestern, you're going to be preparing pretty differently depending on who that guy is.
Oh, for sure. And I'm curious to see, too, like, with the line, the offensive line, who actually ends up starting at those positions. Everybody kind of has a good idea of who they think might be starting at those positions, but just to see everybody. 9 o'clock is late. I mean, it's 8 o'clock Central, so it's 1 hour earlier, but still. Pat Fitzgerald is speaking today at 1 o'clock as well, previewing Michigan State, and so really looking forward as well to see what he has to say about going up against them. I think Northwestern's going to be extremely motivated after losing last year at Spartan Stadium to Michigan State when they were ranked, and Michigan State was not ranked. So I think there's going to be some motivation there from that standpoint, but we'll see. I think on that note, great day with having our high school coaches, Jim Baker and Coach Rob Zimmerman from DeWitt on, and I will say this, we do not have a show tomorrow because Mel Tucker talks at noon. So noon to 1, we've talked about that, Alex, that It's just not very, very good schedule time-wise. Before I go real quick, too, I do want to say this. We have our Countdown to Kickoff special that will be coming up on WLNS on Wednesday night from 7 to 8 p.m. It is a live 1-hour special about the 2021 Spartans, and so we hope that you will be with us for that because I've been putting a lot of time in editing it, staying late until 3, 4 in the morning. I was there yesterday for 8-9 hours working on it. So, yes, we're very excited about that special. A lot of good stuff. Sit-down interview with Mel Tucker, one-on-one as he gets ready for his second year at the helm. Nick Mantis was able to sit down with Kenneth Walker, and he goes into great detail about why he chose to come to Michigan State. And he has a little special bond with Elijah Collins on something that I'm not going to reveal here, but it's hilarious. And then also Ian was able to sit down with Michael Dowell, and he goes into the brotherhood relationship with his brothers who played at Michigan State. And it's very compelling stuff. So we hope that you'll be with us on Wednesday from 7 to 8 p.m. Everybody else, enjoy the rest of this Monday that you're having, and we'll see you soon. Stay safe.